My name is Tony Livakovic.
I'm Manish Patel.
I'm Pantelis Palyaris.
And today we're going to be discussing doublespeak and its importance and prevalence in political language. To begin, it's important to analyze what is doublespeak. Doublespeak is a language that pretends to communicate information, but it really doesn't. It's used by speakers to conceal a deeper meaning that the speaker does not want the audience to know, in order to either make the speaker or the situation look better. Essentially, they're trying to address a question or topic without actually saying what they really mean or think. There are 4 types of doublespeak: euphemism, jargon, gobbledygook, and inflated language. Euphemism is the use of an inoffensive or positive word or phrase in order to cover up or avoid a more harsh reality. Generally, it's used to mollify a situation, or in other words, make a bad situation look not so bad. Jargon is the use of specialized language of a trade, profession, or a similar group. Jargon can be a type of doublespeak when it's used by speakers amongst the public that is not a part of that trade, profession, or similar group. Or in other words, it's used by an audience that does not understand these terms and therefore will not understand what the speaker is actually trying to say. Gobbledygook, the 3rd type of doublespeak, is the piling of words to overwhelm the audience with senseless language that detracts from the focus of the question. And finally, inflated language is language that is used to make something ordinary seem extraordinary.
In this video, we will attempt to answer the question, what are key parts of language that mark or identify doublespeak, and how is it used in instances such as political speeches? Various types of doublespeak, as Tony mentioned before, are great indicators of and are often used by politicians in order to twist the genuine meaning of something in a way that conceals or misrepresents information. This is particularly evident through the speaker's word choice and diction, and is done in order to please the public more or conceal the facts of a bad situation. It's important to be aware of this language in politics, especially during elections when people want to elect someone who represents their views.
In this presentation, we'll demonstrate an awareness of how this language is used by giving examples and analyzing how politicians in the past have used doublespeak. Some examples we'll use will include an interview with Dick Cheney, a press conference with Governor Rick Scott, a general address from former President George W. Bush, and a roundtable discussion with the mayor of New Bedford, which is a relatively small town in Massachusetts. All of these examples will show one of the 4 types of doublespeak, including euphemism, jargon, inflated language, and gobbledygook, and then we will analyze how they've used it and what it does. In the end, after analyzing all of these 4 examples, we will ourselves show how we believe a politician would answer a difficult question using doublespeak.
What really bugs me as I watch all this process unfold is the men and women of the CIA did exactly what we wanted to have them do in terms of taking on this program. We said, we've got to go use enhanced techniques that we're going to find out. And we've got Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who's the mastermind of 9/11, who has killed 3,000 Americans, taken down the World Trade Center, hit the Pentagon, would have taken out the White House or the Capitol building if, in fact, they hadn't been for the passengers on United 93. He is in our possession. We know he's the architect. And what are we supposed to do? Kiss him on both cheeks and say, please, please, tell us what you know? Of course not. We did exactly what needed to be done in order to catch those who were guilty on 9/11 and to prevent a further attack. And we were successful on both parts.
In the previous video, when Dick Cheney is addressing the situation of terror in the Middle East, we saw a very important instance of doublespeak, particularly through the use of euphemisms. Throughout the entire answer to the question, Dick Cheney is essentially trying to accentuate the terrorist actions while hiding the ones that America hadn't seen. This is particularly seen through the phrase enhanced techniques. This essentially means torture, but Cheney doesn't want to directly say that in order to upset the American public. In addition, he says, we did what had to be done, which is also a euphemism in which he's saying that they killed and they tortured, but to the American public, that's not what it appears like, because he's simply saying we did what had to be done. Also, he says a lot about the statistics and facts of the terrorist actions and those in the Middle East, and is trying to detract from the focus of what America did that could be considered criminal activity and that would upset the public.
For the terrorists to use specific things like they killed 3,000 Americans, they would have taken out the White House, but instead, for when he described what the Americans did, he only uses vague phrases like enhanced methods or we did what needed to be done.
For the ridiculous. And tonight there's a mini scandal brewing in Florida over a campaign stop by Governor Rick Scott. 2 weeks ago, the governor was campaigning for re-election in Tampa with a group of uniformed law enforcement officers lined up behind him. There you see the picture. The problem is it's illegal in Florida for public employees to participate in campaign events on the clock or in uniform, and an official complaint has been filed with the state.
Did you really think that all of those deputies were off duty?
Gosh, I'm very proud that last week the police chiefs endorsed me. I'm very proud that 40 sheriffs have endorsed me. I'm very proud of all the support from the law enforcement. We're at a 43-year low in our crime rate. So we invite them to our campaign events, and I'm very appreciative of the ones that came.
But did you think it was a problem to have on-duty law enforcement there?
I'm very appreciative of both their support and those that come to my events.
You didn't answer that question. Should there be discipline?
Look, I'm appreciative of everybody that comes to my events. And gosh, we're at a 43-year low in our crime rate. We should be very supportive of our law enforcement.
So do you think it's okay for them to be there on duty?
I'm very appreciative. Our police chiefs endorsed me last week, the association. 40 sheriffs did. We have law enforcement that come to a variety of events and others. And I'm very appreciative of anybody that comes to an event and supports my race.
In this clip, Florida's Governor Rick Scott utilizes gobbledygook in an attempt to sidetrack the conversation from the question at hand. He transformed the question of whether the officers were on duty into a statement of how appreciative he is of law enforcement. He talks about something generally related to the topic, but does not really answer the question. By rambling on about a marginally related topic, he attempts to distract the audience from the original issue by overloading them with words and numbers. Despite being asked the same question 3 times, and even at one point being challenged on his avoidance of the question, Rick Scott remains adamant on his use of gobbledygook and refuses to provide any useful information in his rhetoric.
President Bush announced the start of military action in Iraq, Operation Iraqi Freedom. Up next, his 5-minute address from the Oval Office.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. On my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war. These are opening stages of what will be a broad and concerted campaign. More than 35 countries are giving crucial support, from the use of naval and air bases to help with intelligence and logistics to the deployment of combat units. Every nation in this coalition has chosen to bear the duty and share the honor of serving in our common defense.
In Bush's address, he uses political jargon through a variety of different phrases, such as coalition forces and intelligence and logistics. Bush uses jargon in an attempt to conceal the horrors and bloodshed of war, and therefore minimize the consequent emotions amongst American citizens. For example, by referring to soldiers as combat units, Americans would be less inclined to associate the term with family members that would serve in the military. In addition, Bush uses the phrases, we will use military operation and undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war. This completely disregards the fact that this translates to bombing and killing enemy soldiers. He describes the American actions as military operations to replace the chaotic image of war with more scientific and surgical procedures. All of these examples show the use of military jargon to conceal the extent of America's involvement in the war against Iraq, and hides the true meaning behind his words.
I talked at great length about what we observed in many neighborhoods in this city, and that is a rapid deterioration of sidewalks, of houses, and of quality of life. And so what we have, what we're here to do today is to really address that problem, because what we've had in recent years is The problems in the neighborhoods have spilled over into the schools. They've burdened the police department. They've burdened social service agencies. Our neighborhoods are blighted. Certain neighborhoods are blighted in ways that we've never seen before in New Bedford. In my view, we cannot let this continue, or else we're going to have much larger problems over larger areas of our city. So what we're doing here today is announce a task force that is designed to remedy the problem. We are calling the task force, the mayor's task force, on neighborhood quality. The idea here is that our efforts are geared toward making our neighborhoods more livable. The task force is comprised of the folks you see here and others. It's a multi-agency task force. It includes support from the district attorney's office.
In the prior video, we see John Mitchell, mayor of New Bedford, use a lot of instances of inflated language. He does this to prioritize a small issue and make it seem a lot larger. By doing this, he can avoid the actual pressing issues and make it seem like the work he's done on the small issues is important. He describes a poor neighborhood as a rapid deterioration of sidewalks and houses, which makes it sound like the whole neighborhood is collapsing. Additionally, he describes that if the problem is not stopped, it will begin to affect larger problems in larger areas. And repeated use of the word larger makes the whole issue itself sound large and important. Lastly, in terms of the way he describes the neighborhood, he says that it's been blighted in ways we have never seen before in New Bedford, which makes the issue sound new, pressing, terrifying, and needing to be solved now. The issue is in fact so important that the mayor says he needs a mayor's task force for neighborhood quality. Giving the task force a title like this makes it sound more legitimate. By giving it this kind of name, it makes it sound like it's actually doing something important and needs a lot of effort put into it. He even describes it as multi-agency. Again, by using this inflated language, he takes a small issue of dilapidated sidewalks and makes it sound like something so big, we need a special mayor-designated task force to solve. It makes the small issues that he's solving sound like big issues that are important that the town should support him for, instead of actually focusing on something like job rate or crime rate or the economy of the city.
Good morning, America. My name is Phil Burns. Welcome to Morning Politics with Phil Burns. It's my great pleasure to have Senator Lewis with us here today. So, as many of you know, Senator Lewis is the current senator of Wisconsin, and he's running for re-election. So, Mr. Lewis, I'd just like to take a few minutes to really see your thoughts and perspectives on a few ongoing American issues. So, to begin, do you think that the use of drone strikes is justified?
That I do, Phil. I believe even though there might be some collateral damage, there might be some infrastructure adjustments, and there might be some psychological impressions left on the locals, I do believe that through our blanketing strikes, through our surgical strikes, and through our remote-controlled strikes, there won't be a lot of drastic changes left to the environment there. But there might be some unforeseen consequences, but I think that's secondary to our main goal of taking out the terrorists.
Mm-hmm. So moving on to the next question, Senator, how exactly do you think America should go about beating down ISIS?
Well, we have millions and millions of soldiers in this great country of ours. I'm very proud of the actions and operations that they put forward, from the engineers to the nurses to the actual footmen on the ground. I believe they're heroes and deserve to be enshrined into some kind of Hall of Fame, honestly, because they're some of the best people on this planet.
So, Senator Lewis, clearly you're very adamant towards America going to war against ISIS, but my concern is, wouldn't this cause a lot of bloodshed and post-war effects amongst American soldiers?
Well, you see, there's always going to be adverse effects whenever you go and campaign in the way we have, but I mean, there's going to be some post-traumatic stress disorder on the soldiers. Yes, there will be mental illnesses. Yes, there's going to be some kind of strain on them. But what you need to understand is that we have to take out ISIS.
So, Senator, moving away from the war on ISIS and moving on to your campaign for re-election, what are your thoughts on the recent criticism about your administration's alleged corruption throughout your first term?
I know in the past I might have transferred some unsanctioned funds, but I was young and naive. What you need to focus on now really is what's happening in the current administration, what's happening now. The Secretary of State has actually been monitoring some of her employees' phone calls, and I find that a violation of privacy, an impeachment upon the Constitution, and an infringement on her rights as an American. What you need to understand is that this is wrong, this is immoral, and it's un-American for her to do it.
Well, folks, that's all that we have time for. Senator Lewis, thank you very much for being here with us today. This is Morning Politics with Phil Brands. Have a great one, America. In conclusion, throughout this presentation, we were able to see the various types and uses of doublespeak and numerous examples. We were able to see how various political figures used euphemisms, jargon, gobbledygook, and inflated language to either distract from the issue at hand, make something seem more mild than it really is, or in general portray different meaning than the one that they actually felt. Doublespeak was used in order to just generally please the public or the audience and make them either have more positive feelings towards the speaker or the issue at hand.
It's important to recognize the use of doublespeak among politicians so that voters aren't tricked by the words they say and instead look into the deeper meaning, and so we can become educated and informed voters.